See, the biggest contradiction of an elected official is you are allowed to take campaign money from the people whose lives you have to legislate. That is an inherent conflict of interest. That is an inherent, I can take, to your point, you brought up Elon Musk, who was Donald Trump's single largest campaign contributor as an individual. He pumped so much money into Trump. It's like, could Donald Trump, if he had to, could he have Elon Musk arrested if he broke a federal law? I don't think he could. He put too much money into you. You are beholden to him. And a lot of our congressional black congresspersons, they also have a lot of money pumped into them by white folks, from conservatives and liberals. They may be Democrat, but it's perfectly legal to accept Republican campaign finance. And many of them do. And I think that's the reason why so many of them can't fight for black people, because they took money from both sides of the aisle. Therefore, they have been effectively neutralized.
I heard people saying that now, you know, with this new administration coming in, it's like the mob. It's like Donald Trump is the mob boss. You know, I seen one picture one day. He had Nicky Milano. I don't know Milano. He used to be the mob boss here in Philadelphia. On the golf course with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. I said, now, what's a mob boss doing at Mar-a-Lago playing golf with Donald Trump, unless Donald Trump is into a deal with them? And then you got the Russians.
But let me clarify this, though, for the audience. We all need to be clear about something. And this includes Donald Trump, no matter how braggadocious or how presidential he wants to appear to the world. The president is an employee. The president is not an employer. He is not the boss of the United States of America. He is not the boss.
Well, who is
an order taker.
Who
this
is
country is ran by a shadow government.
Okay.
The National Security Council, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Federal Reserve. Donald Trump does not set international policy for the United States. I want to be very clear.
I'm glad you said, because I was going to ask you that. Who is running stuff? Because just like local government, somebody is running it. The federal government, somebody is pulling the strings.
It's the shadow government. And they're not really in the shadows because they do exist and they are legitimate institutions. The CIA is a legitimate institution. The FBI is a legitimate institution, meaning they are on paper. They're not. Even though they behave in a clandestine manner, they are not clandestine in terms of their existence. They are very much, they all have websites. You can go and look at the policy, but what they really do is never listed on the website. And these are the people who really dictate what this country does when it comes to the finances. Now, Donald Trump is given the freedom to do anything he wants to do as long as it doesn't interfere with the globalist agenda. Donald Trump will never be able to undo anything that the globalists want to do. If the CFR say they're doing something, he's going to do it. If the National Security Council tells him, I'll give you an example of how I know this. Before he got elected, he made some very disrespectful comments about the Haitian African brothers and sisters.
Yeah, that's right.
About how they was eating cats and dogs and how he wants to send them all back. Here's the question. Haitians and African immigrants are a minority of America's immigrants. Most refugees are from Central and South America. They are Latinos, and most of them are non-African Latinos. So if most of your immigrant problem is Latinos, why did you not poke insult at the Latinos? Why did you choose to target the Haitians and the Congolese, two of your smallest immigrant groups in the country? You know why? Because he knows that the shadow government does not intend to stop letting Latino migrants come into this country. Because they know one of the big reasons why they're here, in addition to replace black people, they're also here so that the corporations can hire them illegally and pay them low wages under the table. Because if they don't allow America's corporations to hire them illegally and pay wages under the table, they will pack their corporations up and take them to Central and South Asia, where they can hire children who have no rights at all to work for less than $1 a day to make their expensive products. So Donald Trump knows damn well he cannot stop the migrant crisis. It's going to continue even during his presidency. But to make it look like he means business, I'm going to talk about the Haitians, talk about the Congolese, and they will let me deport the Haitians and the Congolese because nobody wants them here. So I can pick on them because they're the low-hanging fruit. But I better not attack those South American immigrants because I know that the shadow government intends for them to stay.
Patrick, you want to say something?
So, yeah, there is this notion, we're talking about immigrants, which included myself at a point. Now I am, I am American, Ghanaian American, or, but there's this notion that we come here to this country to take something away from what is meant for Black Americans. Dr. Omar, have you ever heard that before? And if you do, can you clarify that? Is there anything that is meant to be for Black Americans that we have actually taken away from them?
That's a very great question. And as you know, we have two major organizations, if you would, or should I say, two more vocal organizations on social media that purport to represent the American Africans who are the offspring of the Africans who were brought here, enslaved, and forced to build this country. Some call themselves ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. Some call themselves freedmen. Some call themselves FBA, Foundational Black Americans. Obviously, I don't belong to any of those groups, although I am a descendant of the Africans who built this country, my cousin being the greatest leader to ever walk on this country, Frederick Douglass. But I don't identify with them because I'm an African, and I will never identify with the American flag. I will never identify with being an American over an African. So that's just some of the issues I have with those organizations, but I have many more issues with those organizations. But here's what I want to say in their defense, because I want to start with that. I do understand their argument. What they're saying is not all, but a lot of African immigrants come to America and turn their noses up at American Africans. They will not associate with them. They will look down upon them. They will go out of their way to align themselves with Caucasians and other non-Black groups, even though they're benefiting from the blood, sweat, and tears of every right that the American African people have fought for to exist in this country. And then they may turn and poke their noses up and say things like American Africans are lazy. How is it that I just got here from Africa and my family only been here for 5 years and we own the business and I've gotten my doctorate and I'm teaching at a university. And what I often have to do to humble some of our African immigrant brothers and sisters, because it's not all of them, but to humble some of them who are of that mindset, I have to remind them the reason why you've done so well in such a short period of time is because you're not considered a threat to this country. If you ever get out of hand, your citizenship can be revoked. If you ever get out of hand, your green card can be snatched. If you ever get out of hand, you can be deported back to Africa. African immigrants are not a threat to the United States of America. But the indigenous American African who built the country is a threat. Because number one, the country owes us. They owe us. We're the only Black people here that America owes something to, and they don't like that. And on the other hand, the fact that we were enslaved for 20 generations and for 406 years since we've been here under British North American rule, our connection to Africa has been almost completely destroyed. Most indigenous American Africans don't see themselves as African anymore because the white man destroyed it. I'm saying that to say he cannot deport the indigenous American African. We cannot be sent to Ghana, even if we got Ghanaian roots. We can't be sent to Nigeria, even if we know we got Nigerian roots, because ironically, and this is the white man's own fault, his slavery created the mental condition in Black America that prevents him from being able to deport us. Therefore, if he wants to rid himself of the indigenous American African. And by indigenous, I simply mean those who came on ships and not airplanes. If he wants to rid himself of the indigenous American African, he's going to have to do it from within. It has to be a program of genocide. And so all I would say to my African immigrant brothers and sisters who I love and respect, I have no issue because I'm a Pan-Africanist, so there's no issue with me. But some of them can be disrespectful, dismissive, arrogant. Some of them can draw false conclusions that you're doing better than black people because you're more intelligent and hardworking, and that's not true. It's because you're going to be given those opportunities we won't get because you're not a threat and can be sent home at any time. Now, here's where I stand on your question in particular, Brother Patrick. Despite those few African immigrants who have that attitude, because I have a great relationship with African immigrants in America, and I see them no different. When I say American African, I'm talking about all of us. I do not separate out African immigrants. I am a Pan-Africanist, and that's what I live for. Here's the reason I disagree with those groups. African immigrants are only about 3% of Black America. 3%. So even if you have a few Negropeans amongst our African immigrant family, how can you make them the scapegoat for everything going wrong with black people? How can you make them the scapegoat for all the problems that we're having? In my opinion, I have an issue with them organizations, not because that some of what they say isn't true. It's because they exaggerate the role that the African immigrant may play in reducing opportunities for us. And at the same time, I do not hear them indict the Latinos who have taken far more resources from Black America than any African immigrant. I don't hear them indict the LGBT community who have taken far more resources from Black people than the American African immigrant group. I don't hear them indict white women or the feminist movement in general outside of our sisters. They have taken far more from the African immigrant group. I don't hear them indict European immigrants. It's far more European immigrants in America siphoning off the civil rights gains of black people than African immigrants could ever do. So in my opinion, although there is a little bit of truth to what they say, they are exaggerating the extent to which the African immigrant part of our family is responsible for that. And they're totally ignoring the true culprits who are living off and exploiting the civil rights gains of black people. I don't hear them ever talk about the Latino role. I don't ever hear them talk about the LGBT. I don't ever hear them talk about the feminists. I don't ever hear them talk about the white immigrants. They want to keep on indicting and criminalizing African immigrants, and I do not support it. I will not stand for the mistreatment of any African anywhere for any reason.
I agree.
Quick update on FDMG. We are down to getting the floors done. I have to make my way to one of these floor companies. Actually, I'm gonna go to a couple floor stores and look at the type of flooring that they offer in terms of vinyl. We're probably going to do vinyl because I'm being told by the floor techs that it's quicker to lay down as opposed to tile. You got to put glue down and stick it or what have you. But I think I do want some tile because I want the floors that in the classrooms that we painted blue, yellow, green, and orange. I do want the floor to match the walls. So I just got to go see what they're going to charge us for the tile, get the materials ordered. Once we do that, the floors will get laid down. Once the floors are laid down, the only other thing is we waiting on the door company to replace our doors. I'm going to get some of the doors replaced. Nothing's wrong with the doors we got, but I just want our children to walk through new doors because we've been through a lot to get this school up and running. You know, so hopefully by the end of this year, I don't see why not. You know, we should be able to apply for a certificate of occupancy. That's really the big issue now, not finishing up. The big issue now is how many hoops we're going to have to jump through. You know, will we be blessed to just pass the certificate of occupancy and move forward? That's really where we are right now. So
how can people make a contribution or a donation?
They can donate on the Cash App, $FDMG School. Again, on the Cash App, $FDMG School. On the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. They can go to my website, DrUmarJohnson.com. and click on the correct link there. Make sure you don't donate to the wrong link, and they can text message me to make sure they have the right link if they would like. My cell number is 215-989-9858. That's 215-989-9858. And the last thing too, Baba, I will be speaking in Brooklyn, Restoration Plaza, next Sunday, December the 15th, 3 until 7. There will be a Black Men's Warrior Conference. Black Men's Warrior Conference, Restoration Plaza, Brooklyn, next Sunday, December the 15th, 3 until 7. And then I will be in New Orleans for an African fashion show and pre-Kwanzaa celebration of culture. And that New Orleans, Louisiana event will be on Wednesday, December the 18th, 6 until 9 at 1001 Lake Forest Boulevard. There is an Eventbrite link for both events. If anybody wants to be there, just text my cell and we will make that happen. Peace and Pan-Africanism.
Yes, sir.